Okay, in this video we want to continue talking about some battery testing, or in this case really we're going to be talking about testing the electrical system on the vehicle, in the sense that we're looking for a possible drain on the battery. Okay, so we're going to be doing the key off battery drain worksheet number 42. Okay, so in this part of the video I'm going to be just doing the lesson part here, and then we'll turn it off and make a part 2 on the vehicle itself. Okay, by the way, welcome, and I'm glad to have you guys here. Appreciate you guys staying engaged during this time of online learning and training. We're all learning something here. I'm trying to get this video process down a little bit better, and I've got some more lighting that I've added to the garage here. Hope that helps out a little bit, because some days the sun's not shining. I don't have too much light coming in the garage. It's just dark outside. So anyway, we're on page 256 in the book. Okay, page 256, chapter 18, and we're going to be doing this key off battery drain number 42 test. Okay, so we just want to talk through this a little bit. I've got a couple things here to show you, talk about a little bit too, how this works, give you some field experience that I have in this matter. Okay, so page 256, it says terminology: the battery electrical drain test determines if any component or circuit of the vehicle is causing a drain on the battery when everything is off. Okay, so we talked about the function of the battery, remember? That one of the first functions of the battery was to maintain power while the key's off. Okay, so that you can get in the car when you come back and so forth. So your alarm works and other things like that. Your keyless entry works and so forth. So sometimes though, particularly nowadays with all the electrical modules and components that we have on vehicles, sometimes when you turn the car off, everything doesn't go to sleep, as we say. It doesn't turn off. We just simply say it doesn't go to sleep, is how the term we use there. Okay? So this causes a battery drain. This test is also called ignition off draw or parasitic load. That's typically what we call it in the dealership, is a parasitic load test. Okay? And that's what it's going to be called in the service information. Okay? All right, at least in the General Motors service information, they're going to call it a parasitic load test. And typically that is found, when you look at SI, you go to engines, all right, then you go to engine electrical section, and you go to diagnostics in engine electrical, and then you will find a parasitic load test. So it's good to use the information in SI. Matter of fact, if you have that available, it's best to use that. The worksheet that we have here, that we're talking about, has a very good basic information on how to do this. It'll get you through most things, but if you want to be very specific, and if you have a really problem child car, you definitely want to try to get the factory service information, as it will give you particular tests and particular data you need to run that test, and anything that's unique to that vehicle. And we'll point some of that out too here as we go. All right. So many electrical components draw a continuous or slight amount of current from the battery when the ignition is turned off. So there's a little bit of draw on the battery all the time. Again, because of these modules. But nowadays, if everything's working correctly, okay, if everything's working correctly, the battery drain will go down to single digits. And when I say single digits, I mean 0.008 milliamps. So we're talking about 8 milliamps. Okay, that's a very small amount. A fully charged battery will handle that load for 60, 90 days. Okay, without a problem. So the car can be left and parked and so forth. But as it says here in the book, sometimes about 50 milliamps is too much. All right. And there again, it depends on the car, depends on the equipment on the car, depends on the reserve capacity. Remember that number? This is the reserve capacity of the battery and the state of charge of the battery. See how all this stuff kind of goes together? Reserve capacity, state of charge, battery drain. Okay? So General Motors has a chart in their service information that tells you how long the battery should last on the vehicle if it has this amount of drain, or this amount of drain, or this amount of drain. And that's good to know in a sense if you're trying to find something. But the point is, you want that number on your meter, okay? The number on your meter, you want that to be as small as possible, okay? Smaller the better. It will not be 0 on today's cars, but it will go down to single digits in the milliamp range, okay? All right? All right. All right. Some of those components they talk about: radios, computers, alternator, etc. So mainly the modules on the cars is what causes this. I have had a couple of instances where an alternator caused an excessive drain, because an alternator also is one of those components that's typically, but not always, not fused, okay? And it has power to it all the time. So if the diode inside the alternator is faulty and not stopping current flow, then you can't have a drain caused by an internal fault inside an alternator. So that's a possibility, okay? All right. So when do we run this test? That's what he talks about next there. At least there's a couple of reasons. You should run it anytime that the battery is replaced and it's dead. I say should, okay? Anytime I'm working on a vehicle, I always kind of profile that vehicle. I've said this before. You know, how old is the vehicle? Is this original battery? What are the particulars about what happened here? You know, what is the condition of the battery and how dead is it, etc. Does it look like it's just time that this thing's worn out? So sometimes, if it's pretty obvious that the battery's just the only problem, and I look the car over visually and make sure nothing else is on and there's no add-on electrical parts, things like that, then I test the battery. If it tests bad, I sell my battery, and I usually move on. If I have any question though, if I have any question about the circumstances, I'll go ahead and put the meter on there real quick, as I'm going to show you in the next video, and test it. It doesn't really take too long just to check and see if it's okay. Now if it's not okay, then that test takes a little longer. Well, that'll make more sense here later on too. But so really anytime you replace the battery, technically, but also for sure, if you have a complaint of the battery going down overnight, then they jump start it the next morning and then everything works okay, and then the next morning they have to jump start it again. That's for sure when you need to test the battery, and you want to have a good charged battery first. Okay, before you do this test, you want to make sure the battery's charged completely and it's working okay, that the battery's not bad. But once you do that, then you're going to run this parasitic load test, okay? So 2 times. Anytime you replace the battery, and if you have a known battery drain issue where the battery goes down, okay? All right, so it goes into the procedure here, and it says on page 256, it says the inductive DC amp meter. And I have an example of one of those here. It's a volt amp meter. It's an inductive type that you can clip over a wire and take some measurements with. And that's very good. If you have one of these that's high quality and will go down to milliamps, it's good to use. That way you don't have to disconnect the battery. Okay? But those are expensive and not everybody has one. And so we're going to use a different method, or what I would call a normal method, in our video later, and disconnecting the battery and hooking up our amp meter in series. Okay? All right. But we do want to read milliamps. Okay, it says there. Make certain all accessories and lights are off, ignition's off. Check all the vehicle doors to be certain that the courtesy lights are off, ignition's off again, all that kind of stuff. Then it says step 3, disconnect the negative battery cable. Now we're always going to do this at the negative side of the system, okay? Just for safety reasons, mostly. I mean, the current's flowing from positive to negative, but you can take it off and measure it at positive, but it's more likely that you have short something out with your tool or something. So we always disconnect the negative battery cable first anytime we're servicing the battery. So we're going to do this at the negative connection to the battery. All right? Then it says, install, step 3, install the parasitic load tool as shown in figure 1817. So they've got a picture there in your book of one of those. And it looks something like this one right here, okay? The switch is right here, and then we have a cable here. Now this one is made, we'll come around here a little closer to the camera. So you can see this switch right here, hopefully, and get the light right and so forth. It's got a switch on it, this green handle. It opens and it closes, okay? You can't see the connection inside there, but that opens the connection between here, the post that fits on the post of the battery, and then our other connection, all right? And it also closes it right there, all right? The other one I have looks like this, but does the same thing. Has a switch on it, opens and closes, okay? All right? Now this one with the red cable on it is made for side terminal post, okay? To hook up to the side battery, you know, goes on right there to the side of the battery. You take the negative cable off, then you attach it to this end of the cable with the tool that I have here, the bolt that I have here. All right. This one's made for a top post. Okay, I have two separate tools. So this one's made for a top post. Put that on the negative cable, put the negative cable on this end. Okay, hope you can see that. So then you have the switch that you can open and close and not that way you can maintain, connection to the vehicle. All right, to do some tests. Because then it says after you put this on there to close the switch. When you close the switch right here, then you have direct connection to the car just like normal. Then you can start the car, run the car. It says in here, this is common practice, to drive the car about 10 minutes, operate all the electrical accessories on the car, turn everything on, turn everything off, run the air conditioner, run the seats, the headlights, windshield wipers. Go ahead and run everything on the car, turn it on and off, and then come back and park the car. All right, once you park the car after that road test, turn everything off that you can turn off. Then you can connect your meter to the tool, okay? You're still going to have the switch closed, and then you're going to connect the tool or the meter set on amps. Well, you can connect it like here and here, right? You're going to connect it on both sides of the switch that's in the middle. Okay, we've got our meter here, we've got our leads, and we're going to connect our meter here. We still have this closed, still have our switch closed. All right, so we still have connection to the car. All right, so we turn the car off. It says to wait a while. That's a good idea. Let everything power down. The amount of time that you have to wait for it to power down varies again with vehicles. Okay, 20 minutes should work, but a lot of cars nowadays will go to sleep within about 2 minutes. So if you're working on cars that you're familiar with, you'll know how that is. Okay. All right. So after you've done that, then you can open the switch. Okay. Turn the switch. Open the switch. Now, if there's a draw on the vehicle, if anything is running on the vehicle, even stuff that you can't even see, right, like inside a module, then it's going to show up on your meter. Okay? Why? Why is it going to show up on there when we have a hook like this? Because we have the meter in series. Now, everything that's happening inside the car is going through this amp meter. Okay? Just like when we use the amp meter in class on just those single light bulbs that we had on those boards. Remember that? That's why we did that. Okay? This is where we apply some of that meter usage. Okay? Now, everything that's happening on that car electrically goes through the meter. And you can read it right here. And hopefully, like I say, it goes down to about 10 milliamps, maybe 20 milliamps. The book talks about 50. Okay, 50 is pretty good. It won't go dead overnight with 50 milliamps, I can tell you that. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? we're going to have the switch closed, put our meter on it, open the switch. So we've opened this connection right here to make everything run through the meter. Now, word of caution at this point. Don't start the car when you have this on there, right? Why? Everything's running through the meter. This only has a 10 amp fuse. Okay? So be very careful. Typically you can open and close the door if you need to. Okay? Let the interior lights come on and then shut the door and watch them go off. And you can watch that on the meter. And we'll do that in the next video. Okay? But just remember that everything's going through your meter, so don't turn anything on and off. Alright? Unless you really need to. Okay? Might be some reason, but avoid that. You only have a 10 amp fuse in the meter. Okay? Word of caution. Alright, so that's how we hook that up. Alright. Alright, let's see here. That takes us down to step 6, step 7. Alright? And then it goes over to the next page, specification. It says normal 20 to 30 milliamps, okay, or which look like 0.02 to 0.03, okay. That's 20 to 30 milliamps. That's probably a normal reading. But if it goes down to single digits, like 0.008 or 7, that's even better. I have seen them do that. Okay. So this is where that battery reserve capacity and things like that, again, like I say, come into play. All right. Okay. So if it goes down to a normal reading, then all's good. All right. But if it doesn't go down to a normal reading, and you've got, let's say even 2 amps, okay, then that's way too much. That's way too much. Okay, yeah, that's 2,000 milliamps. Okay, and we want 10 or 20. Okay, all right. So when you talk about milliamps again, all right, that's way too many. Even if you have 1/10, 0.1, that's 100 milliamps. That's way too much. You don't want that much. Okay, 0.2 milliamps is probably like an interior light bulb, like a glove box light. Okay, 0.2 milliamps. Or 200 milliamps, all right? Talking milliamps here, all right? All right? So, if it's out of spec, that's where it gets fun at, okay? Then you need to know where all the fuse boxes are on the car. And when I say all the fuse boxes, I mean all of them, because nowadays, there's never just one fuse box anymore, right? That'd be too easy, no. Okay, I know a lot of vehicles have a fuse box under the hood, okay? Under hood bus electrical center, maybe, okay? A lot of cars have, or trucks have, a fuse box in the dash somewhere. A lot of them are on the side of the dash. Some of them have on both sides of the dash, okay? So, you need to know where all the fuses are. Because what you're going to do, basically, is with the meter hooked up, the switch open, and the bad reading that are present there, right? It's 200 milliamps, all right? You're going to, one at a time, pull a fuse out. Okay? You're going to start in order, pick one of the fuse boxes. It doesn't really matter too much. I usually do it on the hood first because I've got the meter under the hood on the battery and I can turn it where I can see it. But then you're going to pull one fuse at a time. Okay? Until that drain goes away. Alright? Alright, now, let's stop right there for just a minute. The book says there, in a little highlighted area, it says note. It says, do not, he says, do not reinsert the fuses after they have been removed, as this action may cause modules to wake up, leading to an inconclusive test. Well, okay. I'm not so sure about that. Matter of fact, I'm not sure about that. Matter of fact, I don't do it like that. Okay? Part of what he says is true. If you pull a BCM fuse out, your drain may go away, and if you put it back in, then that module will wake up again, and then you've got a lot of stuff going on, and you have to let everything go back to sleep, because it wakes all the modules up when you do that. So that part's true. But think about that a minute, what he says. If you've got 3 fuse boxes on a car, and you've got, conservatively speaking, 60 fuses, right? And you pull them all out and put them over to the side, you know, and you empty one fuse box, then you empty another fuse box, and it's my luck, right? It's the last fuse box, and maybe the last fuse I pull. So now you've got all those fuses out of the car. Now you got to figure out where they all go again. Okay? Hopefully they've got a label there, but I'm telling you, don't do that. All right? I'm telling you, don't do that. Take them out one at a time. And every other material and every other training I've seen, except this one right here, okay, you pull one out at a time. But you just have to be smart about it. You have to know that that module, or that fuse feeds a module, what you expect to happen, right? We've talked about what we expect to happen in a circuit, all right? The laws, how things work. Well, there's a law here. If you wake up a module, then it's going to wake them all up, and that's going to happen. But you know that's going to happen, okay? So pull one fuse at a time, put it back. If it doesn't change anything, just put it back in. That way you don't lose anything. Make sure you put it in the right spot. You don't, okay? Just make sure you go up and down the rows and you get them all. Okay, you start with the small fuses. Okay, all right. Okay, just some field experience there. Don't pull them all out and put them in a pile. Lord, no. Okay, so now, so you're moving along there, and you pull a fuse out, and boom, the meter goes down where it's supposed to be. Good deal. So that's what you want to happen. All right? You want to find which circuit is causing the drain. Now here's where another thing that we've talked about comes into play, and that's power distribution. Okay? Once you pull the fuse out and the load, the parasitic load goes away, then you're going to look in service information. You're going to find out what all components that fuse powers up. Okay? It's not complicated. It's really not. But you've got to know that there is a power distribution, and you got to know where to find it in SI. Okay? So you go to SI, you look that fuse up, whatever name of it is, okay, in the fuse box, and you find it in the list, and you open that up, and you look and see what all that fuse feeds. Okay? Seldom does one fuse feed one item. Occasionally that happens, but seldom does one fuse feed one item. That one fuse usually feeds 2, 3, 4, 5 components or loads, right? Okay, so once you figure out which one it is, then you have the page in your hand of where all that goes. Put the fuse back in. Let your meter come back to normal where you're at there, and that 200 milliamp shows back up. 200 milliamp draw shows back up. You with me? So we found which one it is. Now we know where all that goes. Now you have to go to each one of those 2, 3, 4, 5 components one at a time and disconnect that component physically. Okay? That's where it gets fun. That could be under a seat, could be under the console, could be inside the door, could be somewhere inside the dash. You may have to pull the radio out. Who knows, right? It's just depends on which fuse it is, and it depends on, you know, how it's all structured on the vehicle. Okay, but there is a systematic approach to this. On this particular test, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, and you found it. Okay, all right. After that, so that may sound a little overwhelming, and it may be. I've had plenty of cars come in that batteries have been replaced repeatedly, and nobody wanted to do that. Nobody wanted to take the time to run this test and find out what's going on. But like I've said before in class, I know, finding that needle in the haystack in the electrical things that we do is pretty cool. All right, you know, I mean, it's once you go through the process and you find it, and it's like boom, that's it. You put the new part on there, and everything's good. It's all back to normal. You know that you fixed it. Okay, this meter right here is your eyes into the electrical system. Okay, I know you can't see the electrons, but this meter can. All right, this meter is your eyes. This is how you see it. So learn how to use it and trust it. Okay, I put preaching here. I'm just telling you, this is your eyes. Okay, and it's not complicated though. Now, yes, on some cars, the newer they get, and the more systems they have on them, the more complex the systems are. And again, if you get into a situation where you pull a fuse from a module and that module controls several things, it gets a little more complicated. Okay, it gets a little more complex. You just have to work a little harder at it. Okay, but you can still divide the system up, find out what fuses do what, and where it goes, and start eliminating things in a systematic, logical way. Okay? Well, I hope that makes sense. All right, so he talks about that there, what to do if it still exists. He talks about pulling the fuses. So again, you need to, if the test passes right off the bat, you're good. You hook the battery back up, put the new battery in or whatever, and you're good to go. If the reading is wrong, then you do this test by pulling the fuses out one at a time, putting them back in. Okay? Again, you run this test a few times and it'll make sense to you. I'm going to run it on the Jeep for sure out here in a little bit. And that'll be on the next video. So, I'm looking at my time here, keeping this down to one session on this video. All right, there is a case study here on page 257 in the blue box about a Chevrolet battery drain story. That is a good case study there to look at. Sometimes you need to hook a scan tool up and see. You can see which modules are going to sleep, maybe which ones aren't. So that goes into some detail there. I won't try to do that verbally here, right here, but in this particular case, the instrument panel cluster internally was causing the drain. And that's what happens sometimes on modules. Sometimes it's that module itself, whether it's a cluster or radio or some other type of module. I'm just trying to think what other ones that I've seen. Typically not an engine control module, you know, typically not a BCM itself, but there's so many modules in the car, it could technically be any of them. But IPC, I have seen that happen before, particularly radios, things like that. So there's a lot of possibilities out there that can cause this. That's true. But don't let that deter you. That's not smoke, okay? That's just, there's still a lot of promise in following the procedure here and narrowing it down and then locating it, okay? All right, but it's a good tip there on that, in that blue box on page 257. All right, I think my 30 minutes is about up. We're going to conclude this particular little talk here on key-off battery drain parasitic load testing. I hope that's helpful to you. That's why we're here. All right, stay safe.